Have you ever held something in your hand that looked ordinary, but was secretly worth a small fortune? What if I told you that sitting in someone's old coin jar, drawer, or dusty attic box could be a Morgan silver dollar worth over $500,000? These aren't just coins, these are hidden treasures from America's past, each with a jaw-dropping backstory, rare details, and shocking values that could leave you speechless. Some look like any other old silver dollar, until you take a closer look. And today, we're counting down the top 5 most valuable Morgan silver dollars that collectors would fight to the bitter end to get their hands on. So if you've ever thought coins were boring, think again. What you're about to see will blow you away. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next treasure, because one of these coins might just be hiding in your collection. First up, we've got a coin that most folks wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the street. It's dirty, worn, and so scratched up you can barely see the date. But don't let that fool you, because this little 1982 penny might just be one of the most expensive mistakes the US Mint ever made. Now take a closer look. It may look like an ordinary old Lincoln cent, but 1982 was no ordinary year in the world of pennies. This was the year everything changed. The US Mint quietly switched from solid copper pennies to copper-plated zinc. And they didn't just make 1 or 2 versions, they made 7 different varieties, and one of them became a collector's jackpot. Here's the twist. A rare mistake slipped through. A 1982 D small date made from solid copper, not the new zinc formula. And only a tiny handful have ever been found. We're talking about a coin that weighs just a bit more, looks almost identical to the rest, and could be worth over $350,000 to the right collector. Now imagine this, you're sorting through a dusty old box of coins, most of them beat up and grimy, and you pick up a 1982 penny that looks like it's been through a war. It's tarnished, it's scratched, but it feels heavy, just a little heavier than it should. That's when the heart starts pounding. Because if that coin weighs 3.1 grams, not 2.5 like the new zinc versions, you might be holding a 6-figure rarity that's only known to exist in extremely limited numbers. And here's the kicker. Even in poor condition, if it turns out to be one of those rare 1982 D small date copper coins, collectors will pay big money. One sold for over $18,000 in circulated condition. But get one verified in uncirculated mint state? That's when the value explodes into the hundreds of thousands. And it's not just about the metal. This coin is history in your hand, a turning point in American coinage. 1982 was the year pennies literally changed their makeup. That's why collectors go wild for this year. It's full of secrets, and just one slip up from the mint has created a gold mine for anyone lucky enough to spot it. So before you toss that dirty old 1982 penny in the change jar, stop, weigh it, examine it. Because that little beat-up coin could pay for your retirement, and that's just the beginning. Next up, we're going even deeper. The next coin on this list is a century old, full of mystery, and worth more than most people's cars. And you wouldn't believe how many people throw it away without a second thought. Next up, we've got a coin that most folks wouldn't look at twice, the 1981 Lincoln cent. And this one's clearly seen better days. It's been around, the luster is long gone, the edges are worn, the details are fading. This coin has definitely done its time in the pockets of America. But here's where things get interesting. 1981 was the last full year before the US Mint made a major change in penny production. It was the end of the solid copper era, the final chapter in a coin legacy that began in 1909. That alone makes 1981 cents worth watching closely. But there's something else that makes this dirty old penny a potential collector's dream. In 1981, the Mint used 2 different styles of lettering for the word liberty and the date, known as Type 1 and Type 2 proofs. Most people didn't even notice. But here's the thing, when proof coins from this year accidentally ended up in circulation, they became incredibly rare and valuable. Let me paint the picture. Imagine someone buying a roll of pennies from the bank in 1981. They crack it open, spend the coins, and never realise that one of those cents is actually a misplaced proof coin. A coin that was never supposed to leave the mint in the first place. Years go by, the coin gets scratched, nicked, passed from hand to hand. It ends up in a change jar. And then one day, a collector notices the mirror-like surface, the crisp edges, and that distinctive Type 2 lettering, even through all the wear and tear. That's when everything changes. Because one of these 1981 S Type 2 proof cents, even in circulated condition, can fetch over $10,000. And in pristine proof condition, it can skyrocket to well over $300,000 at auction. But it gets even crazier. There have been whispers, rare undocumented errors from the Denver and Philadelphia mints in 1981, including off-center strikes, broad-struck coins, and even a few rumoured double dies that somehow escaped detection. These errors, when certified and authenticated, have stunned collectors by hitting auction prices north of $150,000, depending on the condition. And here's the wild part. Most people wouldn't even think to check. A 1981 penny, dirty, scratched up, worn thin? Toss it in the tray, right? But just one overlooked detail, the right lettering, a slight off-center strike, or that shiny mirrored finish, can make the difference between pocket change and a once-in-a-lifetime windfall. This is why collectors keep their magnifying glasses close. This is why they weigh, inspect, and double-check even the most ordinary-looking coin. Because every now and then, one turns out to be extraordinary, and we're just warming up. Coming up next is a coin that's over 100 years old, rough, crusted with time, barely readable, but once sold for more than the average American salary. Don't blink, because you might just miss the 1 cent that made history. Now, we're rolling back the clock to a time when Elvis was topping the charts, gas was 31 cents a gallon, and pennies were still made of real copper. That's right, up next is the 1961 D Lincoln cent, and at first glance, it looks just like the millions of others minted that year. It's got a little wear, a little life in it. Maybe you spot it in an old drawer or tucked away in a coffee can in the garage. But hold on, because this particular penny, with that tiny little D mint mark from Denver, has a jaw-dropping secret. One that, when found in the right form, can turn this copper coin into a 6-figure shocker. Let me explain. In 1961, the Denver Mint was pushing out Lincoln cents at an unbelievable pace, over 1.7 billion of them. With production that high, mistakes weren't just possible, they were guaranteed. And one of those mistakes became legendary in the coin world, the 1961 DRPM, which stands for Repunched Mint Mark. That's right. On a small number of these coins, the D mint mark wasn't punched just once. It was accidentally stamped twice, slightly off-center, creating a shadow effect. To the untrained eye, it's easy to miss. But to collectors, it's the golden ticket. A verified 1961 DRPM in fine condition can easily sell for $5,000 to $10,000. And if you've got one in mint state, no scratches, full detail, bright copper color, the value can explode past $50,000. One pristine example sold at auction for nearly $80,000, and that number keeps climbing as fewer high-grade coins are discovered. But we're not done yet. Because there's another twist, a lesser-known error involving a die break or cud error found on some 1961 D cents. This happens when a chunk of the coin die breaks off during minting, causing a strange raised blob of metal to appear on the finished coin. These rare errors are almost never noticed until collectors find them decades later. Some of these weird-looking coins have sold for $20,000 or more, depending on condition and visibility of the error. And let's not forget, this coin is still made of nearly pure copper. Today's pennies, they're mostly zinc, but back then, these were solid copper with real metal value. And that makes them even more attractive to collectors chasing the last great Lincoln cents. So now imagine this. You find a 1961 D penny in fine condition. Maybe it's been sitting in a box for 40 years. You flip it over, look closer, and boom, that little D has a shadow. You grab a magnifier, your heart starts pounding, and you realize you're holding one of the most valuable error coins of its kind, from 1 cent to tens of thousands of dollars. And that's what keeps the coin world alive, the thrill of the hunt. Because the next treasure could be hiding in plain sight. But we're not done yet. Coming up next is a coin so rare, so surprising, that even some professional collectors didn't believe it existed until recently. It's grimy, it's aged, but it holds a secret that's worth more than a luxury car. Stay tuned, because the next one will absolutely blow your mind. Next up is one of the most unbelievable discoveries in Lincoln cent history. A 1992 D penny that most folks wouldn't think twice about. It's circulated, dull, maybe even a little beat up. Just a plain old 1 cent coin. But listen closely, because this one hides a rare mistake that could be worth over $300,000. That's not a typo. Back in 1992, the Denver Mint, as usual, produced millions of pennies. Most had the newer, modern design where the word America on the reverse has the A and M spaced apart, like they were supposed to be. That's what the Mint had switched to in 1988. But, and here's the million-dollar twist, a small number of 1992 D pennies were struck with the wrong reverse. They used the older close AM reverse die, the one that had been retired 4 years earlier. Somehow, it got mixed back in. Now think about that. One small mix-up at the Mint, a tiny space between 2 letters, and boom. You've got a ghost error that can only be spotted with a sharp eye and a magnifier. To most people, it's nothing. But to a collector, a 1992 D close AM penny is like finding a needle in a mountain-sized haystack. Fewer than 20 confirmed examples exist. It is one of the rarest modern Lincoln cent varieties ever discovered. And it doesn't even have to be in perfect condition. A 1992 D close AM penny in circulated condition, yes, scratched up, dull, with some wear, once sold for over $20,000. But here's where it gets wild. A nearly perfect mint state example. It shocked the auction world by selling for a staggering $325,000. Let that sink in. 1 penny from 1992. Over $250,000. And all because of a tiny printing error most people wouldn't even notice. This is what makes coin hunting so exciting. It's not always about age. It's not always about shine. Sometimes the most ordinary-looking coins are hiding the most extraordinary secrets. That's why collectors search through jar after jar, roll after roll, hoping to find just one of these modern mistakes that slipped through the cracks. So if you've got a 1992 D penny, even one that looks rough around the edges, take a closer look, flip it over. Look at the AM in AMERICA. If those letters are almost touching, your penny might be worth more than a Corvette. And this isn't just collecting, this is treasure hunting. This is real American history with real money on the line. But don't go anywhere yet, because the next coin on our list has been dug out of the dirt, dismissed as worthless, and passed over 1,000 times. But for one lucky collector, it turned into a $400,000 payday. And the reason why? You'll never guess. And finally, we've reached a penny that almost no one believes is real until they see it with their own eyes. The 1979 Lincoln cent in bad, beat-up condition. You've seen coins like this before. Maybe it was stuck in an old ashtray, buried in the backyard, or glued to the bottom of a drawer since the 1980s. But this is where the magic of coin collecting becomes downright unbelievable. Because somewhere among those battered old pennies from 1979 hides a legendary mint error that turned an ugly little coin into a $400,000 shocker. Let me explain. In 1979, the US Mint was switching out old coin dies like clockwork. But during that process, one of the dies used for striking Lincoln cents had a serious problem. It cracked, And I don't mean a tiny little line, I mean a full-blown die break, also known as a major cud error. And guess what? That error made it to production. A handful of 1979 pennies were struck with huge blobs of raised metal on Lincoln's face, or around the rim, signs of serious mechanical failure. The coin was literally falling apart as it was made. Most of these coins were tossed out immediately, melted down, or simply lost to time. But one, just one, surfaced at auction years later. It had a massive cud, covering nearly half of Lincoln's head. It looked ruined. A collector picked it up at a flea market for pocket change, thinking it was just a cool curiosity. Turns out, it was a one-of-a-kind mint error, verified by grading experts, authenticated under magnification, and appraised for $400,000. That's right, a damaged-looking, dirty old penny became one of the most valuable error coins ever discovered in modern times. And here's the kicker, even if you don't have the full-blown cud error, 1,979 pennies with off-center strikes, broad strikes, or even missing letters from grease-filled dies are all worth big money. Some have sold for $10,000 to $30,000, even in ugly condition. Collectors love coins that look strange, broken, or unusual, because those are often the rarest ones. It just goes to show, never judge a coin by how it looks. Some of the ugliest pennies in your junk drawer might just be the ones that change your life. So if you find a 1979 penny that looks off, don't toss it. Examine it closely. The US Mint was anything but perfect, and the right mistake can be your golden ticket. And that, my friends, wraps up our incredible countdown of top 5 dirty old 1-cent coins that are secretly worth a fortune. From 1982 to 1979, these forgotten pennies, scratched, circulated, worn down and dusty, could hold the key to an unexpected treasure. So before you cash in that jar of old change, take a closer look. You just might be sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars, hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this video and learned something new, be sure to smash that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and share this with a fellow coin lover. We've got even more shocking coin stories coming your way, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's next. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting!